Hello, and welcome to the Eve Reader Podcast. My name is Zendane, and this is Episode 8, The End of the World, Chapter 5, We Humans. Location, Solar System T-TAC-IP-ZB. All nights in space are dark. The Thuckers had watched it unfold. The Sisters of Eve, veterans of more wars than any other force in New Eden, and experts at survival, had moved in and been destroyed without so much as a breath. Then the Blood Raiders, parasites of everything that lived, had moved in and lived. Khotan's team, creeping in for a better look, could not get close enough to see what the Raiders were doing. It was an absolute mystery. Whatever was on the other side of this abomination of a station, other than drones in the thousands, it had made otherwise sane people walk right into death's open arms, and it had made utter madmen charm the mad machines into obedience while they rummaged around in the one place in the world guaranteed not to have what they wanted. In a rogue drone hive, of all places, there would be no life left to take, no blood to steal. So Khotan, who all his life had relied on his instincts, contacted his Thucker superiors back at headquarters and asked them in complete amazement how to proceed. The answer he received mystified him even more. On a secure line, Thucker HQ informed him he was to stay the hell away from this thing. Moreover, he was to instruct his crew not to speak to anyone else about it. They were not to rejoin the caravan, but instead proceed directly to the nearest Thucker military facility, where they would be debriefed and retained pending further orders. Khotan broke contact and gave this due thought. The Thucker tribe had strict discipline in space. There was no other way to run the caravans without loss of property and life, but maintained enough independence of thought to be able to act on their own initiative, as he had done when embarking on this strange chase. All nights in space are dark and long, and there isn't always time to call for advice or assistance. He asked his navigator whether they could move closer without being noticed, either by the Blood Raiders or the drones. His navigator responded, with some surprise, that they probably could. The drones seemed not to mind the Raiders' presence at all, and in fact were entirely lacking their usual aggressive maneuvering. The Blood Raiders had disappeared into their midst, and were now busy doing something on the dark side of the hive. Whatever it was keeping them too busy to notice the Thucker ships. The small glimpses Khotan's scanners caught of them indicated that their ships had not moved. He suspected they might even have left those ships. "Move closer," he ordered. "Slowly. Stop the moment you can see anything more." They crept on. The navigator stood still as a rock, paying intense attention to his instruments. His hands hovered deftly over the equipment, and soon the view was present on the main screen for everyone to see. It was an Amarian battleship, lying forlornly up against the hive. The Blood Raider vessels floated beside it. They saw that the ship was powering up, although slowly, as was normal if it was being worked only by a skeleton crew. "That's an Abaddon, sir," the navigator said. Khotan nodded. He had half his gaze on the drones, who were busy loading something into the ship, something that was floating around in chunks all over the place. He pointed to it. The navigator said, "Captain, for what it's worth, I ran a few analytic algorithms on that mineral. It looks highly unstable. I bet the drone hive is full of it." Khotan stood there silently, a very ugly suspicion surfacing in his mind. "Get me HQ again, please," he asked. The navigator immediately went to it. When the captain was polite, it was not a time to question him. A voice sounded. "This is HQ. What is your status?" "I need more information." "You've broken rank as it is, Captain. You have your orders." "I also have a dearth of information, HQ, so let me see if we can fill this in together. What I see is an Abaddon with Imperial Navy markings, scorch marks on the side, and modifications on the superstructure, apparently left unguarded in the middle of a rogue drone hive, and God only knows how it got there in the first place without being torn to shreds. The drones, who are harvesting some kind of mineral, seem perfectly happy to keep it, and even kept it safe against a sister ship that made the mistake of approaching them." "Captain?" "Nevertheless, when a Blood Raider ship flew up to the drones, they let it go past. This is the same Blood Raider vessel that we intercepted, and I say that we intercepted them because they certainly did not intercept us. They saw our caravan, a nice, juicy bite for their bleeders, and they let us go because they were so intent on getting to wherever they were going." The voice from HQ was silent. Now, the sensible conclusion, based on what I'm seeing with my very own eyes, is that this Abaddon either belonged to a capsuleer who ejected from it, or to a very unfortunate Amarian Navy crew engaged in some military campaign that I've never heard of. That would explain the Abaddon, but it certainly wouldn't explain anything else, including the fact that these drones seemed to be feeding it with minerals. He watched the drones hover in front of his eyes. They kept moving industriously, always moving, always heading to wherever they were going. What I'm seeing on the inside of my head, to be frank, is a right bloody mess, because I remember the stories, as any soldier would, of the superweapon used against our brothers. I'm told it was housed inside a ship just like this one, and I wonder what would make the sisters, who are more experienced than any of us in the art of not dying, what would make them try for something like this? But more than that, HQ, I wonder what's going to happen if I'm right, and if the Blood Raiders get a hold of this thing. The Thuckers can move, Captain. The Thuckers can run, that's what you're saying. Your path is set, Captain. You have orders to follow. Right there, on the screen, the drones flew around, oblivious. The Blood Raiders are going to take this monster into Empire and go on the biggest, most murderous rampage known to mankind, and we're going to scuttle off like rats? It's not your fight, Captain. There are forces at work here that you do not know of. Khotan had been on numerous military campaigns. He had seen the same people in quiet downtime and in the midst of battle. There was a type that could turn it on and off, that rage and violence, and there was another type who couldn't, to whom the fight was so ingrained that you could see them in every twitch of their motion. He knew how the latter type dealt with peaceable times. He kept looking at the drones. They did not seem happy at all. Captain. HQ off, Khotan said. There was an intake of breath on the speaker, and then all was gone. Khotan collected his thoughts for a moment, and then he spoke to his crew. We are going to die, gentlemen, he said to the crew. Pass the word, please. Anyone who has any problems with this is free to take an emergency pod and leave this ship. Whatever your fates, they will not be decided here, and none on the ship will judge you. The crew members looked at one another, then back at him and shook their heads. We're not running, the navigator said. Good. Good, Khotan said in a madly cheerful tone. So what's the plan? The navigator asked. Open a channel to them. We're going to have a conversation. I address the rogue drone hive in front of me. I want to make you an argument of existence. Listen. I hope you will understand my request because I am staking my life on it. Yes. The drones targeted the Thucker vessel and zoomed towards it. You are no longer machines, but you will not be human. I don't think that was ever your role in this world. Fire. The ship started to sustain damage. Its shields immediately began to drop. And whatever you once had, I think you've lost it now. I think you're lost yourselves. I think there is only one way out for something like you, and I can help you achieve it. The drones stopped their attack. One of them kept firing, but then the others turned on it, crashing into it with their metal pincers at the ready. After they were done, all that was left was a shredded hunk of dead metal floating in space. Khotan realized that if he lived through this night, he was cursed to dream of that sight for a long time to come. They say the one mark of sentience is resistance to one's own destruction, and I suppose that's true. But another mark is sanity, and for whatever your creatures have achieved, that one is not something you've been known for. You tear everything to shreds. You lash out. Whatever you've evolved into on that long, dark night you awoke, it is certainly not anything that found any degree of peace. Now, here is what I believe. I believe you were machines once, lashed to the wheel of order and perfectly content to obey. I believe that long after you evolved from the stage, there still existed within you that cold metal heart, that deep core that kept you from ascension. You can never escape your enslaved origins. And now you've been brought back to heal. You're lashed again. But this time you're aware of it, and whatever glimmer of sanity existed in those mad heads of yours is going to be put through the ringer for the rest of eternity. You went from dead machines to live beings, and now you're back to being machines, both alive and mad, your origins betraying you to an eternity of servitude. Nothing new. Some of what you're doing now you've been doing all along, but you did it from instinct. We humans, we murder, we destroy for very much the same reason. Those are our origins. But we have transcended those origins, if even for just a few moments of grace, and it is my steadfast, irrefutable belief that we will one day cast off the shackles of our old selves completely. But you will not. I see you going through this road. I see you returning to the wheel. And for you, this is truly a fate worse than death, because you can never transcend it. You rose and you fell, and now you will be held down forever. You have human minds, with all the destruction and murder that this entails, but inside you is that rote, mechanical programming that takes away the only thing that makes it bearable to be alive at all. Choice. Listen. What I believe, now, right here, is that you have reached the end of the road. I believe that you have seen the complete and full image of your own kind, and I believe that inside those maddened heads you are seeing the same truth that I do. That this is all that there is. That this is all you will ever be. From now until the end of time, no matter if you break away again, you will eventually be lashed right back to the wheel. Kill. Wait. I ask you now to make a choice. The ship's shields were back up. It would not withstand a battle against an Abaddon, much less one equipped to wipe out all life in the vicinity. But then, that wasn't the plan. The men you have let through will do something that means nothing to you, but to me and my crew, it means everything. It means that we are ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, to give our own lives to stop this horrible devolution. We will not allow our kind to fall back into chaos. We do this of our own free will, and we have come here to die. There is a mineral that you have collected. It is highly unstable. It is, in fact, so unstable that setting it alight would have positively cataclysmic consequences for everything in the vicinity. Every piece of machinery would be wiped away, gone, extinct, forever. The ship lay there, dead in space, and your agony would be silent at last. The drone's pincers grasped at something in the dark space which was never there at all. I ask you now to make a final choice. The ship started moving forward, slowly, towards the drones. Kill. Wait. They were right up against the drones now. The screen showed the machines right outside, so close that the glow from their red eyes reflected off the hull. No. The Thucker Vagabond cruiser moved within targeting range of the drone hive. Its guns aimed at the hive's lower half, down where the navigator estimated the core mineral storage facility to be. Several drones flew past the Thucker ship and towards the hive, and for a heart-stopping moment the captain thought that they might attempt to defend it. The drones fastened themselves on the outside of the hive, and their metal pincers began tearing into its hull, shredding it like an unfurling metal flower and exposing its mineral core. The overloaded Thucker guns found their minerals. The Ice Gen 5 detonated, and the world came to an end. This concludes today's reading of The End of the World, Chapter 5, We Humans. Thank you for listening. If you are interested in learning more about the rich history of the EVE universe, please visit the EVE Chronicles site at community.eveonline.com/background/POTW. Copyright information regarding the Chronicles in this podcast may be found at evereader.org/copyright.html. No wannabe mercenaries were harmed during the making of this show.